Welcome to a very special Uprooted from Oakland podcast video stream. Today we are just doing an A's fan video diary where we're going to talk to fans about why they are fans of this team and share some special stories, some special memories, because we still have not had a vote in Las Vegas as of right this second, as of recording. The Senate could still do something tonight, but it's not likely. And then the Assembly has already adjourned for the day. So there's definitely not going to be a final vote for today, like some people had expected. And we've got the big reverse boycott tomorrow. So this is kind of a lead up to the reverse boycott. If you have not been following that, Hal the Hot Dog Guy to put out a cool graphic earlier this evening talking about some of the chants that they've got organized for throughout the game. So I definitely encourage you to go find those. And I should have added them to this, but I didn't. So that's it. So if you are interested in participating in this, there's a link in the description to this video on YouTube. If you're watching on Twitter, you got to switch over to YouTube. But in the description, there is a link that you click. Once you click that, you'll enter your name. You will be put into the queue, and then I will introduce you and bring you onto the video. And I just want you to answer two questions. Why are you a fan? And what are your favorite stories from this team from your perspective? You know, like special memories of, you know, it could be even a losing game or whatever, but they're the reasons that we like the Oakland A's. And we're not going to talk about Fisher or Kaval or Manfred because that just makes us angry. And we have other episodes to do that kind of stuff. But, you know, this should be a celebration of the Oakland A's. And hopefully something that will tug on the heartstrings of the people who actually make decisions and will convince them to do the right thing here. I know for me, like I've said it on this podcast a lot, I was born in 1981, so I was of the perfect age for the 89 World Series, right? An 8-year-old watching Ricky Henderson and Jose Canseco and Mark McGwire and Dave Stewart and all these guys, Carney Lansford and Terry Steinbeck and Dennis Eckersley, all these guys were like, they're huge, right? They are, even the ones that aren't Hall of Famers are like critical parts of that era of baseball. And so I was the perfect age to gravitate towards that. And we used to get free tickets by submitting 2 UPC symbols from a box of Kellogg cereal. You could get a free ticket to the nosebleeds. And so we'd accumulate those and we'd go to 4 or 5 games a summer with those free tickets, and you'd sit up in the nosebleeds and my dad would be watching to see which seats weren't taken in the third deck or whatever. And you'd walk down there and, you know, or not the third deck, in the bottom, and you walk down there during the third inning and get a better seat. And so I got to see firsthand all these great players that, you know, were winning championships and stuff. And so that, you know, cemented me for life. I don't know. It's just, it has been, like I've said it 1,000 times on this podcast, it has been an important part, not only of something just for me to do as a hobby to follow the A's, but all the people I've met along the way, all the friends I've made, going to games or, you know, via A's Twitter and stuff like that. And then all the people that you meet along the way that you feel a little bit closer to, because it's, for much of my fandom here, we have been in the minority. You know, in the Bay Area, you are a Giants fan or an A's fan. You're rarely both. And, you know, for the last 20 years or so, it's leaned heavily into the Giants. So it's like you show up to work one day and you find out there's an A's fan there and you guys have an instant bond because of that. And so, like, that's important to me. And there's a sense of community tied into this team that you just don't see pretty much in any other kind of setting, right? You know, you could be a hobbyist in 1,000 different things, but the community that centers on a baseball team, and particularly this community, I think is really different than any other kind of community out there. And that's special. And that's why I love this team and the people that support it. That's just me. I'm not going to talk much today. We've got first up Joshua here. He's going to share his thoughts on stuff. And this would be a good time if you'd like to jump in to get in the queue. Like I said, the link is in the YouTube description of this video. All right, let's take it, Josh.
Thank you. Yeah, got me the Ricky jersey, hoping for the best at the end of this. And I'm an A's fan because of the history, just the overall history of the organization, but the games I've gone to in Oakland. 89 was my first game. I remember my first A's memorabilia. I say this to everybody all the time. Jose Canseco's 40-40 poster. I mean, I remember it like it was yesterday. And him and McGuire, Canseco and McGuire were just, I mean, to me as a 4-year-old, I was born in 84, and these guys were just like gods. And, you know, just to me, I looked up to those guys, and besides what happened later on in the 2000s, but at the time, I just fell in love with the whole organization, and reading upon the rich history back to Philadelphia. But yeah, you know, my favorite memories got to be, you know, I mean, I don't know, we're like the kings of walk-offs. You know, some of the walk-off games I've gone to, I think it was 2008. I went to when Ellis, I think it was a grand slam, hit it off the foul pole. One of the walk-offs was against the Giants, I think 05, around there. But plenty of wonderful walk-offs, and just one of the best memories I had. I missed it, though, because I didn't have cable at the apartment I was at, and I had to leave my parents' house. But I remember seeing just the highlights of the 2012 LDS walk-off Coco Crisp, and I'm thinking it was over. I had to leave my dad's house, and it's time for me to go back home. And just the euphoria of that stadium, and I can't wait for tomorrow, because I think, you know, the euphoria is going to be even greater tomorrow. Just the atmosphere. I'm going to bring some people with me, a few who are Giant fans, and you know, those are my memories of being an A's fan. I still got, you know, I got my Ace Cup right here. I'm ready to go, and just, you know, glad to be an A's fan, be part of the A's community and family.
Thank you, Joshua. Couldn't agree more. It's a good community to be a part of. We've got some people in the chat. Rainbow Mode says the Oakland A's have the most eclectic fan base, intellectuals, working class, you name it. I've always said they're the smartest fan base too, because we had to learn about analytics and all that kind of stuff to justify some of the craziness that we've seen over the last couple of decades. And now we're having to learn about Nevada legislative process and all that kind of stuff so that we can navigate this whole stupid thing. So the Oakland A's fan base is definitely does not shy away from doing a little research and spending hours and hours and hours online watching legislatures debate. Nobody, who was a guest a few weeks ago, says, I'm an A's fan because no other sports brand is near as interesting. That's true. So there's a lot of good stories in this brand. There's a lot of characters, a lot of stuff attributed to them too. And I mean, you've got an era where Mrs. Fields of Mrs. Fields Cookies is a ball girl or bat girl or whatever she was, and MC Hammer got his name from being a bat boy in Oakland. And, you know, supposedly Crazy George invents the wave, which, you know, is a debatable advancement of sports, but I like it. And I don't care what Steve Kroner says on Twitter. It's a fun way for fans to interact with the game. But all that stuff comes back into the Oakland A's and white cleats and facial hair and all that stuff. You know, that's you could take baseball away from it, take all the World Series and all the Hall of Fame caliber players, and you still got a pretty interesting story coming out of Oakland. Denver Doyle says, my dad took me to games all the time as a kid from late 90s to early 2000s. Favorite memory was Tejada walking off to win 18 games in a row against the Twins. Loudest I've ever heard the Coliseum. The A's were always the team that filled that void against the big market teams, the perpetual underdog. Yeah. Not much more underdog than they are this year, but it's true. If you are just watching, make sure to join us. Get in the click that link at the bottom of in the description on the YouTube page, and join us. Share your thoughts. You don't need to go on video. I just need the audio. I'm checking Twitter. There is nothing new to report. There have been no votes. Senate has not convened. We're just doing our thing right now. Whoops, I've got the wrong banner up here. I guess I'll bring back Josh until we get somebody else in so we can chat a little bit. Welcome back, Josh. We're waiting for more people to join in here.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts then? I guess we can talk about real stuff for a second. What are your thoughts? You're going to the game tomorrow, I assume. What do you think the mood's going to be there? I mean, it is kind of like a bittersweet thing, but
I think it's going to be a mixture of feelings. There's obviously going to be a little bit of emotion, anger. You're going to have people basically telling Fisher, Kaval, and the rest of MLB how we feel. And I think there's people that are going to just enjoy the moment and be there to support the A's and them keep staying in Oakland. I mean, I know a few Giant fans who want to keep the A's. I mean, why wouldn't they? I mean, you're going to lose the Bay Bridge series if the A's go to Las Vegas. It's not going to mean as much anymore. So I'm inviting a few Giant fans to go with me to the game. And I think it's just going to be, like I said, a mixture. I can't really pinpoint. It's like they always say, in the Super Bowl or the World Series, it's just a plethora of feelings.
Yeah.
And I think hard to describe how people, I think exactly. I think it's a mixture.
It'll be cool. And I think I mentioned earlier that Hal had put up their game plan for tomorrow, and most of it, first batter at the beginning or the top of each inning, they're going to chant "Sell the team." First batter at the beginning of the bottom of each inning, they're going to chant "Stay in Oakland," and that's going to be to the tune of "Let's Go Oakland." So you get the clapping and all. And then for the first batter at the beginning of the top of the fifth, to honor 55 years in Oakland and to protest the move, everyone stands up but be completely silent for the entire at bat. I've always thought that being completely silent as a total group, a full stadium, is the best kind of thing you could do. I've always thought we should have been doing that like during the top of innings forever, right? Crowd goes nuts when the A's are up, when Detroit Tigers are up, dead silence, because that would have messed with Justin Verlander way more than crowd noises. He gets crowd noise everywhere, but they're not used to dead silence, So that would have been cool. So I'm looking forward to seeing that tomorrow at the fifth inning.
Well, Verlander's just like any other big game performer. I mean, some people thrive under that condition.
Mm-hmm. We got nobody in the chat. Says cotton uniforms, facial hair, free agency, the DH, steroids, PEDs, analytics, and the first ever fan-funded giveaway. This is the flagship of innovation in its field.
Well, the analytics actually started not with Beam, but Sandy Alderson. I think 92, I believe, when they actually had to start reloading.
Mm-hmm.
I read that, and I think I told you about that book I emailed you called Champions.
Yeah.
By Glenn Dickey and a forward by, I think, Joe Morgan is one, and Vita Blue. And just all around great information on some of the dynasties. I mean, I wouldn't call the early 2000s Moneyball era a dynasty.
Mm-hmm.
It depends on how you look at it, but just the dynasty of the 70s, late 80s. But yeah, they had to start reloading because, I mean, you have to start reloading soon in any organization. The Niners did it in the late 80s. I mean, before Rice was Dwight Clark, right? And before Brent Jones was Russ Francis. So each organization, you have to reload. Yeah. And apparently Walter Haas, good of a soul he was, said he couldn't let him go. He loved them like his children, like his own. And But that's when they had to start reloading, and that's when Sandy Alderson, I believe, went to the analytical. And of course, we got Ken Hoffman and Steve Schott, who decided to totally cut payroll. And they're like, "Oh, well, we're not going to be like Charlie Finley. Trust us." Yeah,
That didn't turn out
right.
the way they planned.
Compared to Fisher, I mean, apples to oranges, but
yeah,
they made some big risky some signings. I mean, they signed Chavez. I think that was the last big signing we had.
Mm-hmm.
But that kind of didn't turn out. He was injured too much.
Yeah. Rainbow Maid said, my first A's experience was opening day 1971 against the White Sox. It was a doubleheader, believe it or not. They dropped both games. Didn't matter. I was in love. That is crazy to me that they did opening day doubleheaders.
Mm-hmm.
That's nuts. But it was a different time back there. They probably had the same pitcher start both games too. Like, things were crazier back then.
2009, I went to a doubleheader. The A's actually had a doubleheader against the Angels.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It was like 2009 or 10. I don't know. I just remember the second game, Rich Harden was pitching.
I know they had one. Well, I don't know if it actually was a doubleheader. They had a rain out, I think, opening day of 14, I think, maybe. Or 13 or 14, somewhere in there. And they might have had a doubleheader that opening day, too. Of course, that 1971 season was their first of the dynasty years. They got first place in their division and then went to the ALCS. From the chat, my A's conversion. Given a ticket to the 2001 ALDS, lost my A's virginity to the Jeter flip. I am obviously a glutton for punishment.
Oh.
That is a brutal first game for...
Yeah, aren't we all?
Yeah. It's like being like, my first game was the 2014 wild card. It's like, oh, why did you come back? So asking E Nobody in the chat who just said that, did Giambi was it really an out or was it safe? From your perspective, being at the game, was it an out or was it safe? Let us know in the chat.
Well, I remember just seeing the replay. He was safe.
Oh yeah, I've always thought it was.
Yeah, I mean but it was 2001, and obviously, you know, sports and politics. People don't think that politics and sports don't mix sometimes, but they do. It was, you know, we had 9/11 that year, unfortunately. And I think they wanted the Yankees to go to the World Series. I mean, I just remember there was the Yankees in the World Series, and then obviously the Super Bowl Patriots. Right. And, you know, go figure. I mean, what do you call that word? Propaganda. I think it's called.
It was patriotism in 2001. But yeah, we've definitely changed it since then. All right, so we got another person who wants to jump in here and chat. So we're going to bring in Matt to share his why he's a fan and what some special story that he's got. Welcome, Matt.
Hey, what's going on, Tony? Man, thanks, man. I found you on Twitter a couple months back, man. I just can't get enough of all the good content you put out there, man. Just want to say, man, I've been a diehard A's fan since I can remember. I'm 41 years old, born and raised East Bay, Pittsburgh, and I've been going to A's A's games, since I can remember. And I got a ton of memories. One of them was like in '87 when Reggie's last year was with us, and I remember sitting in the bleachers because my mom and dad always brought me, my brother and my sister, and my brother, he's part of the right field crew, to the games. I remember my mom and dad would always point out, that's Reggie Jackson. That's Reggie Jackson. And I didn't know who the hell the guy was at the time. You know what I mean? But as I got older, I was like, oh, okay, I saw Reggie Jackson play. So that was one of my best memories. And, you know, losing in '88 to the Dodgers and Kirk Gibson broke my heart. But then my dad says, Matt, they're going to come back next year. You watch. Came back next year. And that was just, man, that was some good times, those A's squads, man. You know, Canseco, McGuire, Hendu, Ricky, man, when we traded him for the Yankees. And that's a big thing coming from the Yankees, bro. I mean, we pulled a blockbuster trade in the '80s like that, man. So, you know, and Eck and Stu and all those guys, I mean, it was just like, that was good times. And then, you know, when they got rid of Canseco and they started to go downhill and the strike happened, it kind of just made me like lose my love for baseball, you know what I mean? So just kind of was like, I started turning my attention to football and things like that. But, when I got into high school, the A's, everyone remembers those dark years of the A's from like 96 to like 98, I remember they would have those, it was dollar tickets, dollar hot dogs, and dollar sodas. So me and a bunch of my boys, we'd go, we get those dollar tickets in the third deck and dollar hot dogs and dollar sodas. So that was kind of fun. So, but I was still an A's fan, but at the same time, I was more into football, you know what I mean? Because it was just like, the A's weren't that good. But in the spring of '99, halfway through my junior year, I developed heart disease. And I had to go to the hospital, and I had to go to Stanford Hospital. I know I hate saying that because we all know who went to Stanford, but I had to go down to the hospital and I had to have a transplant. So I'm sitting in the hospital and the doctor basically says, hey, look, you're never going to be able to play sports again, all this stuff. And I was upset. And then the nurses, they were hella cool. And they were just like, we get A's games down here if you're an A's fan. I was like, yeah, sure. So I started watching the A's that season in '99. And remember we had Tony Phillips that year. And I was like, oh my God, I remember Tony Phillips from our championship years. And Giambi was still coming into his own. Xavi and Tejada were still, they were still rookies in a sense. But just watching those A's games in April and May, those 2 months of my recoveries, was just like, wow, it made me find my love and that passion for A's baseball again that I had when I was, 4, 5, 6 years old and up until I was about 12, 13 before the strike happened. So that's what really made me fall in love with the A's again right there, was just being in the hospital and watching, my childhood team start to call back to respectability, man. So they always got a special place in my heart, man. I'm going to the boycott tomorrow night, looking forward to seeing some old friends. And I got a bunch of people coming. I got my wife coming with me. I got my niece, my sister, my mom and dad. I got a couple friends flying in from Virginia who went to high school with. So it's just going to be just a fun atmosphere. You know what I mean? Just there's no, I mean, football's a different thing, but when it comes to A's tailgating, man, that is a whole different beast. Because I've been to different baseball games. I've been to Giants games, Dodger games, and things like that. Because I like baseball, but it's just the tailgating in the A's parking lot is something different, man. That's one of the things I'm always going to cherish. But, man, yeah, look, I appreciate you giving me my little spiel here, man. I just want to share that with y'all about the love of A's baseball that we all have and just the town pride and things like that, man. So I really appreciate everything that you guys are doing, man. Thank you.
Thank you for coming on. You mentioned that Ricky trade. Could you imagine? That would be the equivalent, I would think, today of the A's getting Aaron Judge from the Yankees.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
I mean, and no it's hard to believe when you look at what's going on, especially this year, but even the last 10, 15, 20 years, it's hard to believe that the A's were ever the team that could pull that kind of thing off.
Exactly. Exactly. That's, and like I said, when I was young, I was only like, when we got him, it was the middle of '89. I was only 7 years old at that time. So I thought it was a big thing. You know what I mean? And it's just, as you got older, you realize like, man, the Haas family was really our great, I mean, yeah, Finley got us those 3 titles and stuff, but that was just like, there's a great documentary that came out in 2003 on HBO. It's called The Rebels of Oakland. It says the A's, the Raiders in the 70s. And basically Fingers just talked about it, man. It was like, those guys were all underpaid. And they were like, man, we just had a tremendous wealth of talent on that squad. That's how we won those 3 titles. Yeah. And they would have won more if they didn't let Fingers go. But they just had a wealth of talent on there. And those guys weren't making nothing. And Fingers even said, I wasn't making nothing. He said, I was making like $29,000. He's like, if Finley would have just gave me like a $10,000 raise, I just would have signed it right there. But then he went to the Yankees and got, I forgot how much he got. I'd have to look it up. I don't know off the top of my head. So, but I mean, the Haas family actually gave a damn about us. You know what I mean? He cared about the community. He cared about the A's. So, man, man, like I said.
And it paid off. Three straight divisions and a World Series. I mean.
Exactly, man. It's like that. Like, I'm fortunate enough to say, hey, we've all seen the A's win one. You know what I mean? We've seen them one. And I know I was 7 years old. A lot of people, older, younger. So I'm happy to at least seeing that. There's some baseball fans, like Padres. They've never won anything. You got teams that never even won a World Series championship. Like Tampa Bay, for example. They've been around 25 years. They've been to 2 World Series, but they never won anything. So it's just, it's fortunate that we've seen that. But it's just, I was talking to my buddy today, and he says something about, what? All you gotta do is just make the thing about A's fans is we all want a championship, but just if we make the playoffs and be competitive, we'll show up. we will
Yeah.
show up, man. You know, it's like I love baseball, but it's just like the product that they're putting out there, man. I just couldn't do it last year, man. It's like, man, I can't keep going through this. I understand, you know, I like with Tejada, you know, I mean, we didn't give him. I understood that, but we still almost made the playoffs in '04. But it's like, man, when you get rid of Olsen and Chapman and Simeon like that, it's like, well, what are we doing now? You know what I mean? We're used to the rebuilds. We're used to shipping all the fans, but it's like, what are you doing now? Now are you going full tank mode? And it's like, never mind, then, man. If you don't care anymore, then I don't care anymore, man. And it sucks because it's like I want to care, but when they do things like that, it's like, well, I'm not gonna put my money in that guy's pocket. You know what I mean? This is the Bay Area. There's other things to do out here, man. I don't know. I hate saying that, but it's true. I mean, but I love the A's. I want to go to A's games. You know what I mean? My wife was never a baseball fan until she met me, and we've been together 10 years. We've been married a year, and one of our first dates was an A's game, and she loves it. You know what I mean? She's a diehard A's fan like me now. So
yeah. My fiance for our first Christmas, part of my gift was she got 2 tickets to I think it was opening week. It was pretty early in the season, and that was the first professional baseball game she'd ever been to.
Oh,
like
right
she
on.
hadn't been anything but like Little League before that. And
My
I mean,
wife
I wouldn't
too,
say
yeah.
she's a diehard, but like we plan to go to a couple games a season, you know, now that we got a kid, and
Right.
get him into it and stuff like that. But yeah, it's something that you definitely share with somebody.
Exactly. Yeah, definitely. Like I said, my wife, and she loves A's games, man. Like I said, her first, I think she said she went like to like I think her first sporting event was like a 49er or a Kings game, because she used to live up in Davis. But she said I had a fun. It was in 14. We just came off those 2 straight titles, you know, or those 2 straight AL West titles. And it was just, you know, there was like a lot of energy in the stadium. And I was talking to a buddy of mine who I grew up down the street with, a good friend of mine. We're still friends to this day. And you could kind of tell in 2014, I noticed something. You had the old fan base that was still there, and then you started to get a new fan base. I noticed there was a lot of different energy. It was just a different type of energy that April and May of 2014 that I did see there. That was in 12 and 13, and even in the years, you know, prior. It was like you could tell that we were really getting ready to come back. That we have something special right here, and just, you know, when they traded Cespedes, man, I was just like, oh my God, man. Like I had friends try to, you know, like, oh, we're getting John Lester. I'm like, it ain't about John Lester, man. You need that guy like Cespedes. You need that dog in your lineup, that someone that strikes fear, because that guy can do something magical at the plate. You saw it in that game in Anaheim when he threw out the runner from the track. I mean, come on, man.
I was at that game.
You were at that game?
I was at that game, and my seats were so garbage that I couldn't see left field from where I was on the right field side, but like it was an obstructed view. So I couldn't even see Cespedes in the corner. And so all I saw was the ball come in the out. And then I didn't know that he bobbled it and took like 2 throws to do it and all that until I watched the replays in the hotel afterwards. But I was at that game, and it was like maybe very few more iconic throws from left field than that. And I was there and still managed to miss it.
Right. Exactly, man. And then when you saw that, you're just like, holy crap. It's like, wait a minute, what do we got here right now, man? I mean, we were the A's, you know what I mean? Like, we haven't really seen anything like that, you know what I mean? Since like, you know, like when like Canseco and Hendu and Ricky Henderson were patrolling the outfield, you know, guys who had arms like that, man. And what he did there was like, oh wow, we got something special right here, man. And then it's like, I always liked Billy Bean, because he could always, you know what I mean? He could make lemonade out of lemons, you know what I mean? There'd be years like, oh man, what is this lineup looking? It's like, oh wow, man, you know? So when they made that trade, I was just like, oh man, I don't know, that right there really hurt, because you could tell, like, as soon as that trade happened, we went from leading the West to just barely making the playoffs that year, man.
Yeah.
That was just tough, man. So that's what kind of hurt it. And then 18 and 19, like, you could just see something again. It was just like, I personally believe that the front office didn't expect this 18 and 19 to get so good like that, man. You know what I mean? Because you could tell there was something when we got Chris Davis. It's like, all right, we got a power hitter, But then you could tell it's like, all right, Olsen and Chapman, if Chapman could just hit, Olsen was pretty clutch. He hit a couple walk-off homers in his career. And then as soon as we got Washington back to work with Simeon, it was like, wait a minute, we have a solid infield right here now. You know what I mean? We could just maybe get a little pitching and then maybe work on the outfield. We got our core right there, kind of like how the Giants had their core all those years. Like, you still look at, Brandon Crawford's been there since the first World Series. You know what I mean? They at least held on to their guy. Buster Posey just retired, last year or the year before? So even though those guys probably weren't all-stars, like Crawford right now is not an all-star, they at least kept their guys. Like, hey, we need to keep this guy. He's part of our championship years. That way they have some fan recognition for the fans. And it's like, we don't even do that. We give a guy 2, 3, 4 years, and it's like nothing. You know what I mean? It's like we just get rid of them, bro. So it's like as the A's fans, we're used to that. We're just used to the rebuilds every so year. But when I saw what they did last year in the offseason from 21 going into 22, and then this last year, I was like, man, this ain't a real build. This ain't a rebuild. This is a full tank job right here, man.
Even like at their worst, like even the Cespedes trade on paper, I could justify it.
Yeah.
And I got where they were coming from. Now I don't, I actually spoke to someone who works for the A's, not long after that, maybe the next season. And he said exactly what you said. He said the reason that was a bad trade was when you had Cespedes batting behind Donaldson, you had to pitch to Donaldson.
Exactly.
Because you couldn't let him go get on base and bring up Cespedes. So you had to pitch to Donaldson or whoever was in front of him. And as soon as you take him out, like you were saying, there's no fear in that lineup anymore. You can pitch around guys now because you're not worried about Cespedes coming up with a guy on base.
Exactly.
And he said that's why it didn't work. On paper, sure, it might have made sense because we had a deficiency in pitching. We also got a guy who couldn't throw to first base to save his life, and the Royals knew that going into it, and that's what ended up killing it. But yeah,
exactly.
the last teardown when they got rid of all those guys, and I also think, going back to what you said, I think they did know what they had with Matt and Chapman, or Olsen and Chapman, obviously. I think Semien, they got lucky.
Yeah.
That Washington was able to turn him into a Gold Glove caliber defensive shortstop. But they knew what they had. That's why they were willing to let Donaldson go. Right? They had a good third base player that could hit. They were willing to get rid of that because they knew they had Chapman coming up the line. I don't think they have that anymore.
No.
So, all those years of rebuilding and going, all right, we lost a bunch of players, but in 2 or 3 years, the guys coming up are going to be really good. I don't see that. You have some isolated guys here and there that will be good when they get here, but you don't have like a Olsen Chapman tandem that are going to be coming up at about the same time.
Right.
And that's the thing that bugs me the most about it.
Exactly. And I was kind of tripping in 2017 because I thought Ryan Healy was going to be our starting third baseman. You know what I mean? Because Healy had a pretty good 17, but then Chapman came out of nowhere and he became our starter in 2018, man. So that was one thing I always gave Billy Beane credit for, is because he at least had something. At least when there was the rebuilds, at least you could, like you said, you saw something. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, wait a minute. We might have gotten rid of somebody, but this guy, maybe in a year or two, he's going to come up. You know what I mean? So, but it's just now, it's just like, oh man, that's what hurt last year, man. It was just like, oh my God, man. That's why last year I only went to a couple games because it was hard. This year I've been to 2 games so far. I'm going to the boycott. I'm going to go Saturday. Then we're probably going to go. My wife wants to go for the Italian heritage night because I'm Italian. She's Italian. So, and then we're definitely going to go to, I think, maybe like one of the Giants games and one of the Yankees games. So we're going to go to a few games this year. And like someone was telling me, like, why are you going to put money in Fisher's pocket? It ain't about that. It's about that. Even if this A's team is bad and we do set the record for most losses, I'm not letting this. I don't want my childhood memories to be stolen. You know what I mean? Yeah. I want to sit there. If this is, let's say this is the last season or 2 in the Coliseum, I at least want to be there and say, you know what, I was there. You know what I mean? It's like I'm not letting someone's decisions of what they want to do with the team going to hamper me from going to at least a couple games. You know what I mean? Because me and my wife, we don't have kids, and my dad passed down baseball to me and my brother. And now my wife's really into baseball. She loves baseball, so she wants that experience with me. So it's like, yeah, you know what? We got to do this.
Well, it's good to do.
Oh yeah, definitely, man.
We've got in the chat, it says, funny that Billy Beane is a 4% owner and has avoided criticism. Now we know why he didn't go to the Red Sox as GM, going to get some big bucks if sale goes through. He is in line to make a hefty sum if it gets sold.
Yeah.
I don't think that was his end game because it's been 20 years since he turned down that Red Sox offer. But
yeah, what was that? 04, 05 after
well, if you believe Moneyball, it was minutes after the 20-game streak.
Yeah, right.
Which is a great movie, but it is not a historically accurate.
I thought he was gone too because I mean, yeah, you're going from the Red Sox who have, I mean, they print their own money, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, and I've always felt like Billy Beane had an eye for he had an eye for talent because he found some guys and stuff like that. So it's like now you're giving a man more resources to work with. So I was like, man, Billy Beane's gone. I thought he was gone, but when he stayed with us, I was like, oh my God, I was shocked.
Yeah. I'm gonna bring Joshua back in because he's been sitting here waiting. I've always said that the worst thing that happened to the A's is also kind of the best thing that happened to the A's with in regards to Billy Beane, because it's like him and Forrest have made John Fisher look like a genius.
Yeah.
And he got away with being cheap because those guys could work within a budget. And so that has allowed this whole thing to go on way longer than it should have. If they were going through GMs once every couple of years, on this kind of budget, then things would have been very different, because at some point someone would have said, you got to start putting some money into this team or we're going to make you sell it, but they got to the postseason and we're getting playoffs and stuff like that too often, I think,
Right. Yeah. We kept fooling playoffs. Like the early 2000s, you could see that squad was good. You know what I mean? Then the 06 one was kind of that outlier, man, because, we got rid of the big three. We still kept Zito around, but when we signed Frank Thomas, you could just tell that there was some, man, we had some, that 06 squad. I really liked that 06 squad. I really felt like if Crosby didn't get hurt, maybe, I don't know, we just ran out of gas against Detroit in that series, man. That 06 squad was something special with Frank Thomas, because it goes back to what I said about having a guy like Cespedes in your lineup. When you have a guy like Thomas in your lineup, like you said, you got to pitch to other guys. You got to be honest to other guys. You can't pitch around other guys.
Crosby never lived up to the expectations.
Nah, yeah, he never,
And, Frank Thomas, obviously, he had that big year with us and went for greener pastures with the Blue Jays, gave him more money. So it's kind of like, yeah, thanks, guys, for the second chance, but bye, Felicia.
And that was a sad thing, too, because I'm pretty sure, I mean, Frank Thomas, I know he got a ring in 05 with the White Sox, but it wasn't really, he even said it like, hey, man, I was hurt, more than 75% of the year. I think if Billy Beane or someone else said, hey, look, Frank, you want to retire in that athletic? How about here's 3 year, $12 million, $13 million. I bet I don't know. Maybe Frank would have said, you know what? I'm happy here. I got a ring. I've a Hall of Fame career. I'll just finish my career out with the A's, make $4 or $5 million a year. He would have, but they didn't even give him nothing.
I think they got scared though, because I was saying earlier with Chavez was the last big contract they gave to.
Yeah, that's,
and he was injured for most of the part.
Right.
And so I think somewhere with Beane was like, do I really want to sign this guy for long in case they get injured? Then what? I mean, you look at Trout. I mean, compared to apples and oranges, Trout's like on another level, but he's always injured.
Yeah.
That's the biggest problem. And especially when they got Pujols in 2010, he was always injured.
Right.
I mean, my uncle's a huge Angels fan down in Southern California. My uncle lives down there, and he just says it all the time. He says, Trout, he's great, but he's always injured.
Right.
There's always something. His back, his obliques.
The best ability is availability.
Right. So, I mean, so sometimes Beane does look smart. I mean, you were saying earlier, piggyback on 2014, I don't know. Sometimes Beane, I think, is too smart for his own good. Sometimes,
right?
He likes. Well, let me see. I pulled a rabbit out of the hat with this trade. Let me see if I can pull it out again. And I'm
Right.
even look more like a genius.
Right.
Yeah, we didn't need the another pitcher. We didn't have, obviously, Samardzija proved that he wasn't a real great effective starter, but I don't know. Could he have proven an effective starter in the playoffs? And we had that other guy. I mean, do we really need Lester? Because besides that power in the bat, it was team chemistry.
Yeah. I said the same thing when that happened.
Yeah. You lose that team chemistry that people get along with. Now you got to get to learn. Now you got to know about this guy now. What are his likes, dislikes?
Right.
What makes him angry? What you know? It's just, and Lester didn't seem like he wanted to be there. He just, I don't know. Maybe it's just me.
No. And then we get we got two other guys. We got Johnny Gomes back in that trade.
Mm-hmm.
Gomes, yeah, he had a great 2012 with us and stuff like that. But I went to a couple games, and in that season in 14, I was watching all the games on TV if I couldn't make it, and it just the body language of Gomes was just kind of like, I don't want to be here. You know what I mean? I'd rather be in Boston right now, man. It's like
that was a nostalgic trade right there. That was, when they sell movies to like TBS or something, like some TV channel or whatever, they sell them in groups, and they go, you can get Indiana Jones, Return of the Jedi, Jaws, and Mannequin 2. Right, and they'll throw one stinker in, and that's why those movies get played on the TV every now and then, is because we got it because we wanted Return of the Jedi. And Gomes, I think, and I like Gomes and everything, but he was a Mannequin 2 thing. That was well, if you're gonna get them, you're gonna take this guy too, because we're done with them. And
exactly, yeah, and I like Gomes too, because when his walk-up theme music was Too Short Getting It, I was like, all right, we got some town pride here. You know what I mean? He's a Bay Area guy from up north. So I was like, all right, cool, man, But it's just that, like I said, when he came back to us, he was just like, I don't know. It's funny. Yeah, it's funny. It makes you wonder, like, what do they, I mean, like I said, man, what do they know about that, what goes on in that front office? You know what I mean? So.
Yeah. I just remember 2014, what we really needed. And I just remember, and this is a headache every time I think about Gregerson.
Oh, my God.
We needed, it was our relief pitching that was horrible that year.
Yeah.
And I remember one of my memories, the saddest memory, we're talking about memories here. I was at school, going to college, and I'm in class, and I'm excited. I'm like trying to hide my phone from the professor. I'm thinking, all right, 7-3, Brandon Moss, 2 home runs already. I'm thinking, oh, crap. Our relief pitching has been bad all year. I'm like, oh boy. So I don't think this is going to be good when I go out for my break. And sure enough, it's 7-6. Then 7. I'm just like I knew it.
Yeah.
I was writing for Fansided at the Swingin' A's site, which is now White Cleat Beat or some stupid name like that. That's a story for another day. But so we had organized a whole watch party at, I think, a Buffalo Wild Wings in Fremont or Newark or whatever. And like, we're sitting there, and it's like all the writers for the site and a bunch of fans and everything. And we're all there. And like, it's 4 times that night we went, oh, we just won this game. That's it. We just won. We just got it. And then it was like, oh, I guess not. Oh, we just got it. Moss hits another home run. Oh, we just won this game. And it's like, we won that game 4 times. The problem was the Royals won at 5.
Right. Oh, man. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, you know what hurt too was you guys remember in 2012, I really thought we were going to get Detroit that year, man. We were just, I thought we were going to get Detroit in 2012. But I mean, speaking of off of Gregor's end, but Ryan Cook that game too, man. We had the lead, blew it. Reddick hits that home run. We take that 3-2 lead in like the 7th, 8th inning. It's like, all right, come on now. Let's shut the door, man. We got Cook. We got Balfour. We can get this. And then Cook gives up that wild pitch. And it's like, oh, my God, man. So it's like, it's funny because my dad's side of the family, he's from Baltimore. So he's an Orioles fan. But he always he's like, I always pull for the A's, Matt. I mean, I was born out here. My dad's side of my dad's grandparents, they came from Baltimore. So, he grew up as an Orioles fan because my dad's favorite player was Brooks Robinson.
Ooh,
but my dad always pulled for the A's. My dad's like, I love the A's. You know what I mean? My dad's like, I'm a baseball guy. You know what I mean? Like, I go to A's games. He goes to Giants games with my mom because my mom's one of those people. Like, my mom and my sister, they're teeter-totters, you know, they're like the A's and the Giants. And I'm like, man, look, you got to pick one or the other. You know what I mean? but at the same time, I respect the Giants. You know what I mean? They're Bay Area. You know what I mean? So they've had some good players. And baseball's different from football. You know what I mean? Baseball's more of a fun game. You know what I mean? It's just, you know, it gets more casual fans, in my opinion. You know what I mean? Football, it's just you're there for the hype. So it's like I said, my dad would always be like, you know what? If there's one fan base, you know, they keep saying the Cubs are the lovable losers, and I'm just like, yeah, but they got Wrigley Field, they got nostalgia, they got history. But if there's any fan base in baseball that's had heartache, it's us, man. I mean, we got 4 titles in Oakland, but really we should have about 7 or 8 of them, man. Really, to be honest.
Ain't the truth.
Anyways, but yeah, guys, I gotta take off, man. I gotta do my nightly walk with the wife and the dog, man. I appreciate chatting with you.
Go Oakland.
Man. Yes, sir, man. Go A's, fellas.
Thanks for coming on, Matt.
Thanks a lot, guys.
And then there were 2. So if you are watching and you want to join in with the conversation, this will be your last chance. I said we'd go as long as there were people in the queue. And so jump on there. The link is in the description on Twitter, and you can get in. I'm just scanning the chat here. It doesn't look like there's been much since the Billy Bean discussion. Go Hawks says, been an A's fan all my life. Can't imagine not having the Oakland A's to root for during the summer. This Iowan with you. Great fans of this team. Thank you, Iowan.
All right.
I think there is like you look at games and stuff on TV and the A's travel well. There are A's fans everywhere, you know, and for a team that has for years been like, oh, we're a small market team and all this nonsense, they really do travel well. For a team that's got no fans, they sure have a whole lot of fans in visitor ballparks.
I mean, I love watching the San Diego Padre games. Mm-hmm. You know, you'll see a bunch of yellow and green in the stands, and especially Anaheim. The Angels games have a lot of A's fans that go to those.
Daniel says, my worry is all the delays are ways to get more yes votes, and where Governor Lombardo signed some bills today, they might have found a way to get SB1 through. All right, so here's the thing. The delays are twofold. You should be hopeful, because if they haven't done anything yet, that means they don't have the yes votes. But you should be cautious, like Daniel's saying, because if they haven't done a vote yet, that means they're still willing to work towards yes, which is bad news for us. But it's still not done. I've said right now we're at like 50-50, because technically, as of right now, the A's still have a better deal in Oakland. If this thing passes tomorrow, maybe we're at 60-40, they'll move. You know, it's still not a done deal. The bill itself has ambiguous language. The bill itself is for a relocation team or any other MLB team. So it could be expansion or relocation.
That always puzzles me.
The site itself isn't stipulated in there, which I've read some reports today that that was an issue with the transportation study, because the bill doesn't actually list a site. They're like, how can we do a transportation study for this bill if there's no site involved? So that could change. There's all these things. And then there's also the stipulation that the A's themselves can get out of this deal. I think they have 12 months where they can get out of this deal and not be in violation of their 30-year relocation agreement and all that.
Well, their name's not on it, right?
Their name's not on it at all, yeah.
Yeah.
So if this passed tomorrow, which would be Tuesday. God, I'm having a 3-year-old fries your concept of time. So that would be Tuesday. Wednesday, Manfred could come out and say, I've got a ownership group that wants to start an expansion team in Las Vegas, and we're going to piggyback off of this legislation. Then the A's are done, right? They're back to Oakland. So at any point during this thing, even if it gets passed, at any point, baseball or an ownership group or the A's themselves can say, we're not interested. And the ballpark might still get built. Bally's now has this tax incentives and stuff to build something on those 9 acres. That's all set. That doesn't go away if the A's back out. So there's reason to be hopeful right now. There's reason to be cautious right now. But even if it passes tomorrow, that's not necessarily It's bad news for the A's because it does push them a little bit closer to leaving, but it's not the death knell that it might seem because of all those vague things in the bill. Also, I have to say, because they're talking about part of the holdup in the Senate is because they're negotiating amendments, particularly with the community benefits package, which is a joke as it stands, and it's a joke in the way they handle it in Oakland. So I don't understand how they're going to change that. But there could be also amendments in there that we don't know about that will say you have to name the team, you have to name the site. That could all change between now and when the amended bill is presented. But as of right now, I still say it's a coin flip. And then if it passes, it's like best 2 out of 3 coin flip. Like it's still not a done deal until first pitch on opening day. This is not a done deal.
I think either way, it's going to be close.
Yeah.
If it passes, it's going to be close. If it fails, if it says no, hopefully that's what we're rooting for. It's going to be close. And I think it's going to be by 1 vote.
That's what it was with the Raiders.
Yeah. I just have a gut feeling. I mean, like I was telling you earlier before, Scott Ostler of the Chronicle came out and said it's going to be really close. He is 100. Maybe that's because he's from the Bay Area. He's saying that he doesn't think it's going to be funded or passed. But again, that's just a hunch. That's maybe wishful thinking, like us. I just say the stadium needs to be rocking tomorrow.
Mm-hmm. Daniel says, I grew up in West Virginia, about 100 miles south of Pittsburgh. In April 93, I was stationed at Travis Air Force Base. My first game was a few weeks later versus Cleveland. I was hooked. Also, I didn't want to support Bonds. Fair enough. Whatever got you to the green and gold, it's all worthwhile. I was there the day after I was at the Giants game, which is weird to say because I've only been to maybe a half a dozen Giants games my whole life. But it was like the day after he broke the second place record, I think. And so they had a nice little ceremony there, and Willie Mays came out and all that kind of stuff. And that was cool. But yeah, I could not care less about the Giants. if they were moving, which they didn't because of the A's, but if they were moving, it would not be a heartbreak to me.
Yeah. You're welcome, by the way.
Yeah.
That was like probably the only flaws that Haas had. He was too kind-hearted. And they say kindness sometimes bites you in the butt sometimes. And
it was one of those things, like, I get it in a certain respect. Like, this is too big of a market to just have one team and everything. But yeah, the play there is maybe not to advocate for the Giants to leave, but just stay quiet. Just stay in your lane.
Right. Lay Bear and the other guy.
Let them figure out their own thing.
Yeah. I mean, I just think, like 91, I mean, Haas loved both sides of the Bay.
Yeah.
He didn't have biasism towards one. And at least unlike Fisher, he would be present, or at least his son, Wally, would be present at a lot of these, community events. They would be present there. I don't think Fisher is present at all. At least not the legislation session.
Not really. And like he had there's like 1 or 2 pictures of him walking the halls in Nevada, but that was it. And that was after it didn't get the votes in the regular session.
Yeah, he didn't look too happy.
You never see him doing anything. You never see him scooping root beer floats and stuff like that. Every now and then you'll see him in the diamond level seats behind home plate, but that's a pretty rare occurrence nowadays, which I understand. I wouldn't want to show up in Oakland right now if I were him either, but
it'd be a cold day in hell for him to show. But no, yeah, I don't think a lot of these community events, he has his, probably interns and other workers that will get involved at these community events, but yeah, you never see them.
Yeah.
And that's why I think they're asking. I think it was Daryl. I think it was the May 3rd, the Memorial Day, when they had the first session, the committee, and the senator that said that she has family in Oakland,
and
she's saying he's like, my family hates the A's. Like, you guys, community involvement is nada. Basically, that's what she was saying. It was Dondero, I think. No, that's the lead. It was the other woman who said, "Hell no."
Yeah, I forget. I'm starting to get. I know more Nevada legislators now than I do any other state in the union, but
yeah,
I'm starting to get them confused. She said that, and then somebody else pointed out, because they were talking about the A's are committed to this community outreach and stuff, and they're like, Steph Curry and his family have given more to the Oakland community than the A's Community Fund has, and the A's Community Fund is almost entirely financed through donations from A's fans.
yeah.
John Fisher has contributed more to political campaigns than he has to the A's Community Fund.
What's that here that they're possibly going to transfer the community fund over to Vegas?
I didn't hear that, but I mean, it makes sense. It's their nonprofit. But that's the thing that pissed me off. I don't know if you watched last week's, but that's what pissed me off last week with Catherine Aker sitting there talking about, oh, we're so proud to fund all these little leagues in the East Bay and stuff, and we will happily take that away from them to bring it to you. And it's like, so even in your arguments to support yourself moving to Las Vegas, you're like, we are willing to screw whoever we need to screw to get here. And that's not a red flag to these people?
Right. No, I mean, absolutely right. I mean, it's like I was telling you earlier, Jaeger, I think it was the second week of May, which we actually, last week's session, we find out it was February, right? Mm-hmm. That they visited and were talking, and you still don't have a concrete and reliable term sheet. I'd be fired. If I was at a job, I'd be fired.
Yeah.
Or written up if I didn't have the project done, and they do it. And I had a feeling they were going to do this last minute. Like, I was like, that week, I'm like, it was every week. Well, we're going to have it sometime today. We're going to have it this Friday. Then it was this constantly. And I was like, oh, they're going to do it last minute.
Mm-hmm.
Then
nobody moves the goalposts like this front office does.
Or gets past third base like Kaval, right?
Yeah.
Like you know what I'm saying? Yeah, no, it's just, it's incredible. It's like, how unprofessional is this? I mean, that's already a red flag. It's like, you use the term like when you compare in your videos all the time. So it's like you go on a date and this person, for one, they're 30 minutes late. They're bad hygiene. They chew with their mouth. So you're already seeing the red flags with this person. And you're like, check, please. That's honestly what the legislator should have done already. Check, please. We're out. No thanks. I mean, and I don't see how. Obviously, they're looking. They've even spoken it. Steve Yeager says he started from Oakland. But if you're getting it from Damon Amendolara, you're getting it from Ken Rosenthal, Buster Olney. Like, come on, man. You. This isn't just West Coast Bay Area biasm.
Yeah, this is national baseball media. Some of the most respected guys in baseball media.
Right.
You know, it's I mean, I will say on one hand, it's great for clicks.
Right.
But literally the most visited I get for my website, I get a Google Analytics report every month. And I think it was the third most searched term in Google that drew people to my site was the Oakland A's suck.
It should be Fisher sucks, but
yeah. And it takes them most of the time to an article I wrote 2 or 3 years ago. It's not even a recent article that I wrote that it takes them to. But like, it's good for clicks right now to be saying John Fisher is a horrible owner and Dave Kaval's a bad president and all that stuff. You know, it's a very easy headline to get positive reaction on, which I think speaks to the A's fan base again.
Yeah.
You know, if all of a sudden your tweet, I mean, Melissa Lockhart today, and I love Melissa. She's a very good person and I go way back with her. She has 14,000 followers, 15,000. That's great. She's got, I'm scrolling through Twitter here to find it. She put out a tweet today about the reverse boycott that has been seen by 115,000 people. So she's getting 10 times the engagement on that tweet than her follower count. Right? And she deserves it. She is literally the best. And she deserves it. But she's not getting 10 times on every tweet she's put out. She put out a retweet that from A's Cast that's only got 1,800 impressions. So it's like, I did a tweet a few weeks ago. I've got like 1,000 people following me. I put out a tweet that had 50 or 60,000 impressions. So it's very good for business right now to say you don't like John Fisher or Dave Kaval. So
Yeah.
I will take some of their criticism with a grain of salt, but regardless of their motivations for stepping out now, it does show how wildly unpopular these two guys are. And three, if you throw Manfred in there too, because he's just as unpopular as everybody else. It does show like that there's national dislike for these guys. It's not just located in the East Bay.
Oh no, of course not. It's like I said, you got Damon Amendola, CBS Sports, and he's from New York, I believe. Then you got Ken Rosenthal, Buster Olney. It's I think even AJ Przinsky, where Ken Rosenthal does his commentary on Foul Territory, I think it's called. They've been talking about it, and so the word's spreading. And I think, like I said, why tomorrow needs to be rocking. So people, they look, you got the owners. Maybe they're going to watch it. I don't know. Maybe they don't care. But, they're looking. So, John Fisher, it's the A's fans, huh? They see how much the crowd there, but like I said, they might not care.
I don't know how much or little the other A's or the other team owners are looking, but I do know, like, you've seen Kaval, who hasn't tweeted in months, is liking and retweeting tweets. So he's poking around Twitter. He sees the stuff. They are aware, and obviously they're aware of the actual ticket sales tomorrow. And I've always said, since this thing was announced, the worst thing that could happen is if the reverse boycott had 100 more tickets sold than the previous Tuesday had. But it's already over 20,000. There's somebody on Twitter that keeps counting them. He goes section by section and counts the available seats. And they're already over 20,000. They're getting close to, I think, opening night numbers for a random Tuesday in Oakland. So, I mean, just that alone is something that you can't, if you're in the media nationally, you can't ignore that. If you're covering this story, you can't ignore the fact that they had a few thousand last week or 2 weeks ago, and now they've got 20,000, 25,000, whatever it ends up being.
Yeah, I just got my alert. We're up 3-0 right now against the Rays. So
now they're on they could be on a 6-game winning streak. Not to jinx it, but I don't care.
I don't know.
They could be on a 6-game winning streak, and coming into this reverse boycott, they had on their last Tuesday home game, they had 5,116 people. So they've already eclipsed, if nobody else buys a ticket, they've already eclipsed their last Tuesday night by 15,000 people.
Are you questioning this like I am? Or like some people might? Because
am I questioning it?
Some people might think, or I was thinking the other day, are they waning now? Because it's funny how if you look at the May 31st, right, the Memorial Day, they're having that meeting and they're talking about how the A's suck. I mean, I'm just, it's odd how they're winning all of a sudden. I mean, maybe that could be a good thing, and they can have more fans come. But it's odd how they're starting to turn. Because I remember you last week were saying you wish the A's would just suck. If we're gonna suck, let us just suck. You know what I mean?
I don't want to be competing with the Royals for who's going to have 22 wins. Right. I want to be, if we're going to be it, I want to have the worst record. But they're not even losing to, I mean, they took a sweep of Milwaukee, who's a over 500 team. They're second place in their division. Same amount of wins as the first place team in their division. Now they're going up against the Rays and giving them a run for the money. And you could I mean, there's no team in baseball better than the Rays right now, but
Right.
this sub 20 win team is currently winning.
Could it be maybe, I don't know. I'm not saying because that they're throwing games and it's probably a long shot conspiracy, but maybe the A's baseball is getting involved and saying, well, hey, we need to give these guys the wins. We need to show Vegas that these guys can compete. You know what I mean? It's not far. It's not probably happening, but it's not a long shot either. Because, like I said, if you remember the session on Memorial Day, that they were saying that, well, the A's suck. How are they going to stay competitive? Now, all of a sudden, we go into these special sessions, and now that they have this winning streak, which it can happen to anybody. Me, maybe I'm just a conspiracy theorist, but it's weird. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
All of a sudden, we're starting to win and win. Now we're up 4-0. So, but it's just, yeah, like I said, it's a little odd that this is a special session. They're questioning if we're going to be competitive. Now because there was a few calls, I think, the other day that there was like a high strike or so that our pitcher had pitched, and I'm kind of like, what's going on? Like I said, probably far-fetched.
They beat the Pirates 11-2, and the Pirates are first place in their division above the Brewers. So they took out the Central Division and actually lowered their run differential for a little bit there. I don't know. I don't think it's as easy to do that kind of stuff in baseball as it is in basketball. But yeah, it definitely is suspect when you're like, you guys have sucked for 55, 60 games, however deep we're in now.
Now it's a special session.
And then all of a sudden, when Nevada Senators are saying, why do we want your crappy team? All of a sudden you're like, hey, we're on a 6-game winning streak. You know?
Right. That's what I'm wondering.
I've said it here like 1,000 times. I have yet to hear a conspiracy theory about the A's from the last 2 years that I could 100% debunk.
Right.
You know, it's like all of it's like, no, I see where you're coming from on this.
You're right. But I don't think it was a couple podcasts ago where somebody said that the Giants might have sent Fisher in as an assassin. Yeah. That I don't think so. But they could have, the owners of the Giants could have came up to him. Hey, John, because supposedly John Fisher has been at Giants games before. But Giants care, what I've heard.
But I think he's still a minority owner there, isn't he?
I don't know. But I do know, I was reading an article a while ago. I have to find out what article it is. But he begged his dad to keep the Giants, to be part of the group, to keep the Giants in San Francisco. And so I'm thinking all this time, well, maybe they came up to him one day, hey, Johnny, come here, and we want to be the only Bay Area team in this. And what's it going to take for us to get you out of here? And he's like, well, I don't know. I got to think of some way that maybe one of them were watching TV, TBS. We're talking about TBS earlier. And Major League comes on and they say, hey, Johnny, turn the tube on. We got an idea and he's like, you're right. This is okay. So that isn't far-fetched though.
Yeah.
Because it's funny how these guys, you don't hear much about them recently too. Larry Baer and Phil Newcomb. That's what it is. Phil Newcomb.
Yeah.
I mean, I think Peter McGowan was not that way. I mean, he passed away a while ago, unfortunately. He might have been the guy with the whole heart. But these other guys, I don't trust the Giants owners now.
No, I just looked it up. Apparently, he had to sell his stake in the A's or the Giants to get the A's. But I just read something like a week ago that was talking that he still had some kind of very, very, very minor cut in that. So that might be totally wrong. But yeah, Major League was supposed to be a cautionary tale, not a business.
Right. This is how it's done, boys.
I said the same thing too. It's like they were watching the producers and they're like, maybe we could, we could make more money on a failing team than we could on a winning team,
Right.
It's definitely the whole situation, and it wouldn't be this way if it also wasn't stupid weird.
Right. I
You
mean,
know,
yeah, like I said, something smells and it ain't the water in the bay.
Yeah, there's something that it's easy to come up with conspiracy theories when for 2 years now, or 5 years really, you've been told we need to have 50 acres so we can do ancillary development, and we need to be able to this will only work, we can only put more money into the team if we can have condos and stores
Yeah.
and stuff to support it. And
Mhm.
then all of a sudden it's
9
9
acres.
acres is fine. Like there's something like that kind of behavior is rife for
Yeah.
conspiracy theories.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's just, but I don't know how they're going to be able to do even with because most dome stadiums or retractable roof stadiums are more than 9 acres. I think is it Minute Maid Park? That's like 28 acres. I think T-Mobile in Seattle is 17, I believe. 9 acres for a retractable. I mean, they're already criticizing it.
I think it'll end up being a dome when it's all said and done. It'll end up being a dome because they're not going to have the money to be able to do that on a 9-acre lot, because it'll probably take some kind of innovation that's never been done before.
And it costs about $5,000, $10,000 a day to run a retractable roof. Each day.
Does it really?
I've looked it up. I was looking it up on Google. I was like, okay, how much does a retractable roof cost? And there's different variations of the price, and it says could cost $5,000, $10,000 a day to run it.
So you're looking at up to $81,000 a year then.
Because you're also thinking too, the lights on under it. Mm-hmm. You got to have lights, and it's just electricity. The electric bill probably included. And
I guarantee that's not something they've looked into.
No, of course not. I mean, look at the rendering they came out with on Memorial Day weekend. Yeah. I mean, more than 9 acres, and of course you got the professors out there. Oh well, it's it's not showing the Tropicana. It's going to be here. It's going to be there. Like I said earlier, I can name you a few that have come on to other shows, and they're just so adamant about these coming and let's effing go. Let's And it's like, bro, you're that delusional. You really think Fisher is going to spend money on the A's when he gets there?
No, it's crazy. All you got to do is look at San Jose for proof that he won't.
Oh, exactly. And I'm like, I might just go on Twitter. I don't do Twitter, but I might just go on Twitter in a few years if this thing does pass and they get him. And I'm going to put a Stephen A. Smith meme, make my own Stephen A. Smith meme. Because every year when the Cowboys lose and he does this little video of him laughing hysterically, because he always predicts it that the Cowboys are going to get kicked out, and there he shows himself laughing. I'm going to do that, on Twitter, just to, when they sell Rook or Noda's gone, I'm just going to go on Twitter and put that, and every time I hear a Vegas fan say Fisher's going to invest in this team.
Well, I mean, to quote Dave Kaval himself, the proof will be in the pudding. And you've got these guys that are kind of the cream that's rising to the top right now. If John Fisher is serious about putting a winning team in Las Vegas, you got to be looking. These guys that like Ruiz that are coming up now that are showing some potential are going to be the cornerstones of your team in 5 years when that stadium opens. So when they get traded at the trade deadline this year,
or they sell them,
which they very likely could, then that is just more proof that John Fisher has no interest in putting a winning team really in either city. This isn't even a Vegas or Oakland issue now. This is just his ownership of the team in general. He's not interested in putting a winning team on at all. Because those guys will be traded. Yeah. If not by the trade deadline this year or the All-Star break in some cases probably, then definitely by the end of the season.
Yeah. I mean, the only consolation that I think I got from all this is he can't mess around in Vegas.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't care what the end of the movie Casino says. When Robert De Niro's narrating and he says, well, the corporations took over. It's more like a family thing. The mob still runs it down there. They still, and like the quote Joe Pesci in the movie Casino, there's a lot of holes out in that desert.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm telling you, I'm not. I don't want bad things to happen to him. I'm sure he's a nice guy, but he better not mess around down there and try to poke the bear, basically. Because I'm telling you, he will find himself floating down the Colorado River at 2 a.m. with a burlap bag over his head. I mean, the mob may not be there, but you sure as hell know that the casino magnates and the gaming commission, they run like the mob.
Oh, and the unions. And I'm a union.
Yeah.
I'm a very pro union guy, but I keep reading reports that this is all going to come down to which senators want to cross the culinary union.
Right.
And if that's the case, if that's true, then those unions aren't really working for the best interest of the town or the city or their local. They are literally just they want to get anything that even seems to be slightly beneficial for their people.
Yeah.
They're gonna kind of blow up exponentially, you know. And I think that's kind of what's happening, because it's like the culinary union really thinks that there's going to be a measurable amount of full-time jobs at a stadium that's open maybe 90 times a year. Those are part-time gigs. There are going to be as many or more culinary jobs that would be built on those 9 acres if they would have just let the Tropicana rebuild on the whole site instead of 3/4 of it.
I were the center, I would just let them know, like, hey, look, we're going to say no on it if they vote no, but we promise you we'll have a job for you at the Tropicana. They're going to tear it down.
Yeah.
And if I were somebody, I would tell Vegas, I don't think they need MLB to be financially productive. They don't. Because they got NHL Knights who are tremendous, who didn't, by the way, spend, even someone in the center said they didn't spend a dime. You got your minor league park, which I don't think baseball could take away. I don't know if they could or not. But you also have the NFL, the Raiders, WNBA. And if you bring the NBA there, expansion, I mean, courtside seats alone are close to $1,000, I'm sure. I haven't been to a basketball game in a while, but I'm sure they're expensive, courtside seats. You bring the NBA, you're going to get more money flowing. I don't know. I don't think they need the MLB.
I don't think they do either. I think NBA is definitely the next way to go. MLB just does not. If they were to do it, it would have to be expansion, because MLB does. There's not a whole lot of precedent to say that current fans will relocate with the team. Right. There's the most recent one is Expos to Nationals, and I don't know that a lot of Expos fans still follow the Nationals closely.
Yeah.
And so I don't think there's nothing in history, recent history, that would suggest that Oakland A's fans are going to be loyal Las Vegas A's fans.
Brooklyn Dodgers, LA Dodgers. I mean,
yeah. But that was 60 years ago, 65 years ago.
They all became either Yankee fans or Mets fans.
Yeah. So I don't know that without that precedent, I don't know that it works. But if NBA was to get an expansion team or something, or even an MLB expansion team, but NBA is lower stakes and it's a more versatile venue, because you can do more concerts will be held at an NBA stadium than an MLB stadium. You have the college UNLV can use it, you know, all those kinds of things. I think it's a more versatile venue for the Las Vegas Strip. So there's a little less pressure on an NBA team performing, and it's not unheard of. The finals are going on right now. I heard on the radio that tickets for that were going for like $15,000 or $35,000 or something like that. Yeah. That's not going to happen for almost nobody. I mean, the World Series, if you're lucky, you'll get it once every 20 years.
Plus, basketball's international, and they've had the All-Star game, the NBA All-Star game in Vegas.
Yeah.
So they already know that, the Vegas knows, hey, we can make money here, the NBA, and they're international as well as baseball. Right. But if you notice some of even the teams, we're talking about teams earlier with winning records that the A's have beat, some of these clubs, they're getting like 10,000 to 15,000.
Yeah.
Again, that's compared apple to oranges with our, you can't compare it to the A's, but still for winning records, they're not getting at least 30,000. And because baseball's dwindling, people are tired of one. We had the strike last year. Obviously, Manfred, what he did with the Astros, the way he handled it. So people are kind of leaning a little away, like, I don't know. But he does this with the A's. I mean, who's to say? Because he's already threatening the Brewers.
Right.
It could end up like the A's. And who's to say with the Giants? Giants could move maybe one of these. I don't think they will, but politicians. Well, Rising Sea, they're right there on the bay there,
and they're in a stadium now that's close to 25 years old, which we're starting to see is the lifespan of these stadiums. 25, 30 years, and they're wanting to replace them now. So the Giants could be asking San Francisco for money. I mean, they didn't ask for money last time, which is why the A's presentation to Nevada stops right. It goes back in time and stops right before they get to the Giants stadium because that didn't need public financing. But who knows what's going to happen now? And if what I'm seeing from some people is true, that the reason this has been able to, the Manfred has allowed this to go on as long as it has, is because they don't want to set the precedent that communities won't put in public funds for it. Then that might force the Giants to go to San Francisco or the state of California to go do it. Plus the Angels need a new stadium.
Right. They're thinking about Long Beach.
So it's like there's all this stuff. And if you're just going to start playing, and this goes back to Barbara Lee's letter a couple of weeks ago, if you're going to start playing a shell game with all these teams going, if I don't get the public money I want, I'm going to move to Nashville or Charlotte or whatever the case is, then that really throws into the whole antitrust thing. So Manfred could actually be digging his own grave here as far as that antitrust exemption, especially when you got a Supreme Court that is more than willing right now to throw that out the window.
Yeah, I mean, like I said with the Giants, because San Francisco is not getting any better.
Yeah.
Right now, they're having their own problems.
Yeah.
With a lot of tent cities and obviously California, period. The rising property taxes, everything. So in a few years, Giants say, hey, we don't want to pay these property taxes. San Francisco, will you give us some money? Well, San Francisco's like, well, we didn't have to give you money last time.
Right.
And who's to say? Well, they say, Vegas. The A's didn't go there. We'll go, We'll jump on that since they didn't.
Yeah.
So again, not true, probably not going to happen, but it's just something that obviously Giants ownership would do.
And somebody needs to be thinking about it, because just because it's not likely to happen doesn't mean that it's not plan B for somebody.
Right.
So we've got now joining the chat. I'm going to put Joshua on hold here. We got Denver Doyle, who was in the chat room earlier. And if he's just coming on to talk about the Nuggets winning, this is not the place, man. But congratulations. Welcome, Denver. Sorry about that, folks.
No. What the heck was that?
That's going to be enough to get me kicked off of YouTube. So thanks for that.
Yeah.
Idiot. This is the problem we have with having an open house setting like this. All right. So since there's nobody else, do you have any last words you want to say tonight? And we'll start wrapping this up.
Oh, just gotta say, show up, everybody. Go A's. Fisher out. Fisher sell. And best way to kill a snake. Cut it. I mean, I'm not gonna go too graphic there, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
It's got two snakes in the grass that we need booted out, and just show up. I'm hoping Mayor shows up tomorrow.
Who?
I think the mayor shanked out.
I would hope so, and I think Vice Mayor Kaplan has been.
I think
she's been promoting ticket sales and stuff for this. So
yeah,
I wouldn't be surprised. I actually invited her here tonight because we have chatted a few times, and I was hoping
Would've
that
been
she
great
would
to
come
talk to
on,
her.
but hopefully she'll be there as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, I gotta say, go Oakland, keep the faith, and I don't know. I'm this close to going getting some Xanax because I'm constantly refreshing Google, refreshing. I think I'm refreshing everything. Nevada, Las Vegas, Googling, search Tabitha Moeller, Howard Stutz, all the people that are in on this. So it's been, I'm telling you, a roller coaster for a month.
As we are closing out, I'm seeing that the Senate, Nevada Senate, has just rang the bell and they are taking roll calls. So I don't know if that means that they're going to have, like
boy.
last week, where they're going to have. Nope, they're heading back tomorrow at 8 a.m. So there's nothing going to happen tonight. Senate is adjourned. Assembly is adjourned. Nothing will happen until tomorrow.
Is it? Okay.
So we are done for today. And then there's a very real possibility that decisions will be happening during the game tomorrow when everybody's having a massive protest. So
yeah, it's I mean, would it be better if you heard Fisher's going to sell?
Yeah,
that'd be even better.
That's the breaking news I would love to put on this podcast.
Oh, jeez. I think everybody else in that place would be rocking even more tomorrow.
Yeah, no kidding.
But
that's what I've been saying. Like if Fisher was to say I'm going to sell on Tuesday, on Wednesday it would be a sold out game.
Oh yeah,
like
yeah, it would be. I'm telling you right now. I mean, I can imagine it saying it at the beginning of the game, and then all of a sudden you hear security guards. We got a massive group of people coming up to the stadium. We're gonna have. I can just imagine it being that. Because people will want to come back to the stadium.
Yeah.
And actually love this club because we have somebody that loves it and loves us back.
Yep.
And I don't know. I'm tired of being given the finger by these guys. I think we all are.
Yeah. Hopefully that will be the next thing to change.
Yeah.
So for everybody else, make sure that you subscribe so you can see more stuff. I won't let that one guy on again, so we don't have to deal with that. And you can, if you're listening on the podcast, on the audio podcast, I hope you will consider joining for a future episode. And you can either email me at uprooted@herohabit.com, or you can DM me on any social media, and we'll set up a time to have you here.
Thanks
and
for having me on,
with that, I say good night and have a great time at the reverse boycott. And let's see what happens in the legislature tomorrow. Have a good night, guys.
Good night, Tony.
Good night.
Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah. Enjoyed it.